Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Hit the bell, subscribe. We have new content coming out daily. Make sure you subscribe. God bless you guys. I want to get your reaction to Matt Gaetz's creative idea where he says that Donald Trump could become a witness in front of the United States House of Representatives and that would immunize him from prosecution. Is that realistic?
I think House Republicans should do whatever it takes to end this lawfare against President Trump. This is obvious lawfare. We've been talking about this, Charlie. You and I have been talking about this for a year since the Mar-a-Lago raid last August. It started with Alvin Bragg's bogus indictment of Trump for the non-crime of a businessman settling a nuisance claim. Then we had Jack Smith indict Trump for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records, which is allowed by the Presidential Records Act. Now we have Jack Smith indicting Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and the First Amendment. We saw New York Attorney General Tish James file a civil lawsuit against Trump for the non-fraud of a businessman paying back sophisticated banks in full with interest. Fulton County DA Fani Willis is going to indict Trump this month for non-crimes related to January 6th. This is all-out lawfare against President Trump because Democrats fear he's going to beat Biden like a drum on November 7th, 2024. So House Republicans should do whatever it takes legally and politically to end this Democrat lawfare driven by President Biden against Trump. That includes impeachment. That includes defunding. That includes whatever they need to do in the House of Representatives. Haul people in for oversight, demand their records, demand their documents. This is a zero-sum game. Democrats are on offense because we do not have them on defense.
So talk about your idea, which is around using the appropriations bill or a rider bill saying no federal funds may be used to prosecute a major presidential candidate. Now, that would actually then stop investigations into Joe or Hunter Biden. Is that also potentially an application of it?
Those investigations are going nowhere. We saw special counsel Rob Hur being appointed, a uniparty deep state prosecutor appointed by Merrick Garland to investigate Biden for having 5 stashes of stolen classified records, moved several times, unguarded for years, accessible by the Biden's Chinese agent, and almost certainly used by Hunter to secure tens of millions of dollars in foreign bribes and other corruption for every Biden family member except for the five-year-old granddaughter who Joe and Jill just acknowledged because they came under political heat. These investigations are going nowhere under Merrick Garland and the Biden Justice Department against Biden. And so this is unprecedented election interference. Unprecedented indictments of a former president, unprecedented indictments of a leading presidential candidate. So my appropriations writer would simply say this: no federal funds may be used to prosecute a major presidential candidate on or before November 7th, 2024. And what that does is it just pauses these investigations and it lets the American people decide who our next president is going to be instead of a Biden picked special counsel Jack Smith, an Obama judge, this Tanya Shutkin, and a D.C. jury that's 95% Trump deranged. There is no chance that Trump is going to get a fair trial in D.C. He's going to be railroaded. There's no chance he's going to get a fair appeal with the Obama-stacked D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. The Supreme Court will certainly overturn this bogus criminal conviction against Trump like they overturned Jack Smith's bogus criminal conviction of former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell unanimously 8-0. It would have been 9-0 if Justice Scalia didn't pass away. But the problem is the Supreme Court will almost certainly not be able to resolve this before November 7th, 2024. So House Republicans need to step up.
If I were to kind of read the room here, Mike, I think in some ways the bad guys have already won because we've normalized now this idea of threatening a political challenge to a current president with 600 years of prison. And I think the reason that the reaction has not been as fierce is we are an exhausted nation. Think about it. From the lockdowns to the COVID lies to the vaccines to the Floydapalooza riots to the 2020 stuff to January 6th, we are an exhausted people. We are fatigued. And we get that feedback often, and I see it in our base, and I see it, people say, Charlie, when is this going to be over? We are exhausted, we're desensitized. And Mike, if I were to kind of go a level deeper into the strategy of Jack Smith and these deranged lunatics, they are capitalizing on the exhaustion of the American right. Mike Davis.
I 100% agree with you, Charlie. For them, this is a war of attrition. They're just trying to beat us into submission as a country. They do not want us challenging their regime. They do not want us questioning their election interference. They don't want us even questioning elections. It is not a crime to challenge elections. It is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. It is not a crime to twist arms politically. That is allowed by the First Amendment. It is only a crime to question elections in third world Marxist hellholes like Zimbabwe and now Atlanta and DC and New York.
Yeah, and I mean, I hesitate to say that we are a third world country, but our legal system is certainly currently acting like it in more ways than one. And so I don't see, Mike, from the Congress any sort of rapidity or action considering the dramatic moves that not just Alvin Bragg, that's one thing, but Jack Smith and DOJ and soon to be Fani Willis. I don't see the anger. And when I talk to some of these lawmakers, some of these congressmen, they say, yeah, Charlie, it's like, man, we're just overwhelmed. It's like, what else do you want us to do? Fight! That's what I want you to do. That's why we sent you there. If you are a sunshine patriot, go park cars, like go run a coffee shop, go sell insurance. Those are good things to do. I'm not demeaning those things. Some people in our audience do that. Don't get into the lawmaking industry and or the culture war fight and then tell me that you don't have the energy or the spirit to fight the regime. Mike Davis.
I would say to these politicians in Washington, D.C., it seems like the D.C. swamp is the only place on the planet where the reptiles lack backbones. And if these House Republicans do not understand that these are republic-ending tactics by the Biden regime, they do not deserve to be in office. If they don't think that now is the time to fight, this is so much bigger than Donald Trump. This is not going to end with Donald Trump. They're not going to just go away if Donald Trump goes away. They're going to be emboldened. And they have been emboldened over the last year since the Mar-a-Lago raid, because it seemed like for the first 6 months of this, it seemed like I was the only person out there defending Donald Trump and fighting back against this. I think these Republican politicians are slowly starting to find their backbones, but if they don't find their backbones now, they don't deserve to be in office, because we're going to lose our country. So who gives a damn if we control the House or control the Senate? If they're not willing to fight now, then screw them, primary them, stay home.